Peace and blessings, family. Peace and blessings. Here real quick to let everyone know we are doing a Q&A on Patreon today. Here a little bit earlier than normal. We will be filling in for the elders today on Patreon and doing a Q&A. If you look in the description box below this video, you'll see the link that you can click on. It'll take you straight over to the Patreon. It is A Gathering 144 on Patreon, A Gathering 144. All right. In order to view the content for our Q&A today, it is a paid subscription. All right. It is $5 a month. You can pay that monthly, or you can pay the year out in advance. If you like to do it that way, there is no obligation. But in order to view, you must be a paid member on Patreon. You can also view through the Patreon app. There is an app there in your app store of your device. If you rather use the app for Patreon, you can do that as well. We will have a guest call-in number on the other side. So on Patreon, we will make the guest call-in number available so you can call in if you have any questions, if you have any things you would like to share, questions in regards to the new year, Passover. You have, Bible prophecy, things happening right now prophetically. You may have questions about current events, things you want to ask, maybe things you want to share, things that are going on. Maybe we haven't discussed that you want to, share with us. We're definitely open for that too. All right. So, but wanted to come here, let everybody know that we are on live today, where we will be. So for those of you who are here now, or those that come across this video later, you'll know what the game plan is for today. And definitely, I see you all in the chat. Want to say Shabbat Shalom to those who are in the Sabbath. For those whose Sabbath is coming, it'll be starting soon. If it hasn't started already, want to say Happy New Year, as the new year will begin tomorrow at evening. Saturday night at evening starts the new year. So we are going into a double Sabbath, back-to-back Sabbaths. All right, the spring. I know everybody, loves this time of the year. It starts to get warm. It's the beginning of the year. Things turn green. Passover's here. Very, very exciting time of the year. And so I know you brothers and sisters are ready for Passover. For those that are, going to be in Florida, and for those who may be not able to attend, I know you're happy to have it where you're at in your home with your family. All right, so I see you all here in the chat, and someone asked, is the next lesson coming out of Babylon or G.O.C.C Fitness? At this point, it'll probably be next Friday. We may do a kind of a pre-Passover, but still going into some prophetic things. So it'll probably be coming out of Babylon. On the other side of Passover, we are looking to bring back a lot of things for G.O.C.C Fitness, for health and things like that. Working on. So probably won't have anything on G.O.C.C Fit until after Passover. All right. And so someone asked, where in the Bible can they find that spring is New Year? All right. So when you go to the book of Deuteronomy, let me pull it up here. Somebody asked, am I going to Rumble tonight? Well, we're going to Patreon tonight. So our broadcast today is for Patreon. And so we're not doing two broadcasts, just one, and it'll be on Patreon. So, and then for the person that asked about the New Year question, we can break that down in more detail. We can break that down in more detail on the other side on Patreon, but I'll give you a quick scripture here. All right, let me find it before we head over to Patreon. Okay, when you go to Deuteronomy, it's also Exodus. There's a couple of different precepts that come to mind. So the first precept you have, let me pull it up here, Exodus 12. Let me get my, so you all can see. So we have Exodus chapter 12. You look at verse 2. It says, "This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." Okay, it's the beginning of months. It's the first month of the year. So let's see what happens during this time. It says, "Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house." So 10 days from the beginning of the year, or the first month of the year, you have them getting a lamb. What is this lamb in preparation for? The Passover. It's gonna show that. We keep reading down. It says, verse 4, "And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb." Verse 5, "Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it unto the 14th day of the same month." So this 14th day is the Passover. Verse 6, right? "And the whole congregation and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." All right. So we see here the Passover. Okay. So Passover is in the first month of the year. Now we're going to show how that's in the spring here in a moment, right? When you keep going down, verse 11 says, "And thus shall ye eat it," talking about that lamb, "with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover." So we know that in the Christian church, they celebrate Easter, right, which is pagan. We should be celebrating Passover, and everybody knows Easter happens in the springtime. So that's just more insight to Passover being in the spring. But let's get more here. Let me pull up more. Actually, yeah, let me pull up more. Wasn't sure if I had the right screen up where y'all could see that. Let me pull up more. In Deuteronomy, just another precept to help you all. Let me find it. Yeah, here we go. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Let me pull it up for you all. So we know Passover is in the first month of the year, but how do we know when Passover is? What's a sign for us to understand when Passover, what is the beginning of the year and what's the first month? Like, how can we look in our reality and our environment and get a sign to know, just looking at nature, that we're in the first month of the year? It says here, "Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God, for in the month of Abib the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt by night." So we see here Abib is the name of the month that is related with the Passover. So Passover happening in the month of Abib. Okay. "Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover," right? So Abib is the first month. Okay. And it's the month of Passover. Now let's take a look here in the Strongs and see what it says about Abib. Hebrew Strong's H24 says what? It says, meaning to be tender. Tender what? Green. Tender and green. That is a young ear of grain. Hence the name of the month Abib or Nisan, ear, green ears of corn. So what is tender? A seedling or a small sprout of grain. So when you start to see the plants, all right, the crops, the flowers, you start to see it beginning to sprout and become green and tender before it becomes full age. That is the beginning of the year. That's your spring. Okay, so this is just using the Bible. Of course, we can go into Jubilees and Enoch as well. I believe probably Jasher. There are other precepts that actually show us and confirm the beginning of the year, how we know when it is. But just aside from those extra biblical records, if we just use these two precepts, these two places, Exodus 12 and Deuteronomy 16, we're able to understand when Passover begins. Again, we also can look in religion, and we see the Christians celebrating Easter in the spring. We see the Jewish community celebrating Passover in the spring, and they're off on their timing. Like, you can already tell now that spring is knocking on the doors. I mean, this week, at least where I'm at, it's definitely been a week that felt like spring. Like, we've had a couple of days within the past few weeks here and there, right? But this week has been consistently a week that felt like spring. Okay. And you're already starting to see things that were dead and brown starting to turn green and starting to come up. Okay. So just because spring starts doesn't mean, that crops are ready to be harvested. Okay. That's just the beginning. So there's still things are springing up. Okay. They have to spring up before they're ready. I mean, of course, you do have some cold weather crops that do grow in colder weather and colder climate, but majority of your plants, majority of your crops grow when it's warmer. Spring, summer, fall, that's when majority of crops flourish. All right. So just, if you want to get more on that, definitely come over to the Patreon. We don't mind at all with answering those questions. So if anybody else is asking questions, save it for the Patreon. Unfortunately, I can't go through the chat right now. We have to head over to Patreon and call in. I'll supply the guest call-in number for you all to call in as well. All right. And so Happy New Year. Shabbat Shalom to you all. And hopefully I'll see you all over on Patreon here in a few minutes.